It began with silence, thick, pressing, the kind that settles before a lightning strike. A 17-year-old boy stood at the defense table, wrists shackled, head held high, not with arrogance, but with something more dangerous, certainty. He wore a second-hand shirt and a tie too long for his frame, yet somehow, he looked more put together than anyone in the room. The judge, seated high above, eyed him with disdain. Judge Abernathy. The type of man who viewed the courtroom as his kingdom, the gavel as his sword, and anyone from the wrong side of town as already guilty. The boy was charged with arson, assault, and attempted murder. His supposed victim? Jason Carr, golden boy of the city, heir to a legacy of money, and, most importantly, Judge Abernathy's godson. From the very first hearing, the boy knew the scales weren't just tipped, they were bolted to the ground. Witnesses vanished. Evidence got misplaced. The prosecution wove a story of gang violence and rebellion, painting the teen as a powder keg with a match. And through it all, the boy said nothing. Not one word. Not when the media called him a monster. Not when the prosecutor spat venom about sending a message. Not when even his own lawyer whispered, "Just take the plea." He sat, silent, his eyes locked on Abernathy, not with hate, but with an eerie patience. Then came the final day. The air buzzed with anticipation. The prosecution was smug, the press already writing headlines. The judge leaned back, ready to hammer the final nail into a coffin he'd been building for weeks. But the boy stood. Requested, calmly, to represent himself for closing arguments. The courtroom rippled with disbelief. Abernathy smirked. "Let him," he said, "let him hang himself." And that's when the atmosphere shifted. The boy stepped to the center, unshackled, standing taller than he had the entire trial. His voice came out low, steady. "You want a confession?" he asked, his eyes sweeping the room. "Fine. I watched the fire burn. But I didn't light it. I watched because I needed to see what would survive it." He reached into his pocket and held up a flash drive. "New evidence," he said. Objections flew like gunfire. The prosecutor shouted about legal procedures. The judge pounded his gavel. But the boy never flinched. The bailiff took the drive and plugged it in. The screen behind the judge came alive. Security footage. Dated. Time-stamped. Clear. Jason Carr, rich, untouchable Jason Carr, caught on camera. Spraying gasoline behind the school gym. Laughing with two friends. Lighting a match. Another clip, Jason threatening a classmate, saying, "If anyone talks, I've got the judge in my pocket." The courtroom detonated. Gasps. Screams. Phones snapping photos. The jury sat in frozen horror. The judge's face turned the color of old parchment. The prosecutor stopped mid-breath. The boy looked at them all. "I didn't speak because no one listens to kids like me. I needed you to show your hand. And you did." Abernathy tried to shut it down. Called for order. But he couldn't unsee the video. Couldn't undo the truth. Jason Carr was arrested on the spot. The boy's charges were dismissed within minutes. Not guilty on all counts. And yet, he wasn't smiling. He turned, slowly, to the crowd, his mother, trembling in the back row. "Tell her I did it," he said quietly. "Tell who?" she asked. "The one watching," he whispered. Then he turned back to the judge. "One more confession," he said. "I hacked those files." "The footage?" "I wasn't handed that. I took it." The crowd froze again. "I committed a crime to expose a bigger one. You decide what to do with that." Abernathy's lips parted, but no sound came out. The boy reached into his pocket again. "Another flash drive. This one's for public record," he said. "It has more than Jason's name. It has yours. And others." He dropped it on the desk in front of the judge. Corruption logs. Bribes. Case tampering. Evidence suppression. A list that went far beyond this trial. A system-wide cancer, catalogued by a teenager no one believed worth listening to. And in that moment, power shifted. A kid who'd been written off as a thug had just dismantled a judge's entire kingdom. With facts. With strategy. With terrifying brilliance. The room sat stunned as the bailiff stepped forward again. This time, gently, hesitantly, ready to take the boy into custody, not as a criminal, but as a rogue hero who had dared to commit one crime to reveal dozens. The judge whispered, "You'll go to prison for this." The boy didn't blink. "You'll never see another bench again." Justice had been served. Raw. Real. Righteous. But as the courtroom emptied, something didn't sit right. Jason Carr, now in handcuffs, was smiling. A slow, sinister grin that had nothing to do with fear. And in the far back of the room, a man in a dark suit slipped out quietly, unnoticed. No badge. No press pass. Just a phone to his ear and a look that said this was far from over. Because the boy had toppled one piece. Jason Carr smiled. That was the moment everything changed, again. The golden boy, now in cuffs, smirking like he wanted to be caught. That smile wasn't fear. It was a warning. A message. And nobody saw it except the boy. And that man. The one in the back row. Black suit. No name. No expression. He slipped out just as the courtroom collapsed into chaos. But the cameras missed him. The press missed him. The boy didn't. He felt it. That chill. That pull. 2 days later, the headlines were everywhere. Corrupt judge disgraced, teen hero exposes elite scandal, Jason Carr's shocking arson confession. But buried in the flood of praise, of interviews and outrage, was one quiet line. Jason Carr refused to post bail. The boy sat in a cold interrogation room, hands still bruised from the cuffs, but his eyes sharper than ever. He was being processed, not as a criminal, but as a hacker, still facing federal charges for leaking court records. They wanted him silent. Gone. Buried. But he couldn't stop thinking about Jason. About that smile. Then, the phone in the station rang. Not a line for press. Not legal. Just a direct call. It was answered by one of the marshals. He listened. Face drained of color. Then he turned to the officer in charge and said 2 words. "Release him." They meant Jason. The judge's godson. Jason Carr was released from custody without explanation. No statement. No paperwork. Gone. That night, the boy's phone buzzed. Unknown number. One text. "You were never the target." The boy's breath caught in his throat. The next morning, his mother's car was found abandoned, engine running, her purse still inside. No sign of her. Panic. Noise. Sirens. But the boy stayed silent. Staring at the flash drive. The second one, the one the judge had taken. That was the last time anyone saw that drive. The files he hacked? Gone. Deleted from every backup. Wiped. And someone high up, had scrubbed the servers. Jason's release wasn't a fluke. It was permission. But then came the twist. The boy's old friend, Marcus, slipped him a letter. No envelope. No signature. Just 1 page, handwritten. Jason didn't set the fire. What? He was ordered to. By a group that stages crimes to manipulate trials. To control who rises and who falls. Abernathy was their puppet. But you? You weren't supposed to win. And then, at the bottom of the page. You exposed one lie. Now they want you to chase the rest. Or disappear trying. The boy knew what this was now. Not a courtroom case. A war. And it wasn't just about Jason anymore. It was about why the fire was set. Why evidence was planted. Why an entire system protected one teenager while trying to bury another. And why someone just made his mother vanish without a trace. He opened his laptop, hacked into the prison surveillance database, and ran a facial trace on the man in the black suit from the courtroom. No matches. Not federal. Not state. Not even private sector. Whoever he was, he wasn't supposed to exist. But then the footage glitched. Frame by frame, he rewound to the man slipping out the door. And on the man's wrist, just for a second, was a tattoo. A black chess piece. The king. Then his screen went black. His lights cut out. And from behind him, a voice whispered, "Checkmate." The boy froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but his feet stayed planted, locked in place by something colder than fear, clarity. This wasn't just about corruption. This was about control. Every step of his journey had been part of someone else's game. He turned slowly, expecting a masked man, a weapon, something cinematic. But there was nothing. Just an open window, the curtain swaying. He wasn't alone, but no one was there. The laptop rebooted. No files. No trace of the facial scan. Just one file sitting on the desktop. Your move.mp4. He clicked it. The video opened with grainy footage of his mother, alive. Blindfolded. Breathing. Tied to a chair. Behind her, a voice disguised through distortion. You're smart. Smarter than we expected. But let's see how far that gets you without her. Cut to black. Then a logo, the Black Chess King. And coordinates. One shot. One chance. He packed everything, his burner drives, a tracker, a hidden MIC, and went alone. The coordinates led to a crumbling industrial complex outside the city, one of those forgotten places built in the 60s to power steel but now used to hide secrets. As he stepped inside, cameras turned toward him. Lights flickered on, one by one, revealing a circle of chairs, empty, except one. Jason Carr sat in it. Uncuffed. Calm. Waiting. Thought you'd come, Jason said, grinning. They want you to join. The boy stared. Who? Jason chuckled. You think the justice system is broken by accident? This isn't about crime. It's about balance. Chaos fuels control. And you? You just tipped the scales. He held up a phone. On the screen, the boy's mother. Still alive. They'll give her back, Jason said. If you do one thing. What? The boy asked. Jason leaned in, eyes gleaming. Plant the next lie. It was all a loop. Frame one kid to protect another. Burn one truth to save a bigger lie. Control perception, own reality. And they wanted him now, the teen who exposed the system, to become the system. But the boy had one last play. While Jason monologued, the hidden MIC he planted outside streamed everything to a private server. It was already uploading. He turned to Jason. You talk too much. Jason frowned. What did you? Sirens. Spotlights. SWAT stormed the compound. Jason ran. The boy sprinted toward the locked room in the back. Found his mother. Shaking, but alive. Cut the ropes. She collapsed into his arms. Outside, chaos. Inside, proof. The authorities found documents, flash drives, even photos of politicians, judges, bought and sold like trading cards. The Black King wasn't a person. It was a network. Centuries old. Global. And now? Exposed. The news broke in waves. Politicians arrested. Judges disbarred. Dozens of cases reopened. The boy was hailed a whistleblower, a hero, a revolutionary. But they never found Jason. Never found the man in the suit. Never found the king. Weeks later, as the boy and his mother moved into protective custody, he received one final package. No return address. Inside, a single black chess pawn. And a note. The king has fallen. Long live the game. He looked out the window, gripping the pawn tight. The war wasn't over. It had just changed boards.